I love coyotes. They're beautiful predators, they're incredibly adaptable, and they kind of remind me of my dog. But let's be honest, coyotes can also cause real problems. Free-ranging chickens and cats are easy targets. Coyotes will also attack dogs and could potentially kill smaller breeds. And some coyotes have even attacked people. The coyote-human relationship is complicated. We admire them for their beauty, appreciate them for their ecological role as a predator, hate them when they attack our pets, and sometimes even worry about our own safety when coyotes are seen nearby. Coyotes have expanded across North America. They now live almost everywhere, from remote wild landscapes to the center of major cities. And in each of those places, their relationship with people looks very different. That difference sets the stage for the main question driving our research. Do urban and country coyotes behave differently? To answer that question, we focused on one key aspect of behavior: boldness. How willing is an animal to take risks or approach unfamiliar situations? We think that cities and rural areas offer coyotes completely different kinds of risks, and thus very different evolutionary pressures on how they behave. In rural areas, people often hunt and trap coyotes. There are fewer people overall, but the consequences of being detected can be severe. Thus, a cautious coyote is better able to avoid people and might survive longer in the countryside. In cities, hunting and trapping isn't really possible, and coyotes are constantly exposed to people and pets that don't actually cause them any harm. Urban coyotes that are too cautious might miss out on feeding opportunities or avoid potential urban habitat altogether. This leads to our primary prediction. Urban coyotes should be bolder and more willing to take risks than country coyotes. We also tested two related ideas. First, we expected that larger cities would have bolder coyotes because they have larger coyote populations that can specialize on the urban environment. Second, we expected coyotes in more recently colonized cities, like many in the eastern United States, to be less bold because they've had fewer generations to adapt to urban life. To test these ideas, we worked at a national scale. We set up a behavioral experiment in 16 different cities. At each city, we set up an equal number of sites in urban and rural areas so we could directly compare the behavior of animals living in these different conditions. Our experimental setup involved a camera trap to record what the coyote did and a scent and bait attractant to lure the coyotes in. But at half the stations, we added something extra, something strange and unfamiliar placed around the bait. In this case, just some wooden posts and a string. But this setup is known as a novel object test. All right, so this is our basic setup. We've got our novel object here of sticks and twigs. We've got our scent lure. We've got our camera trap. We're gonna leave this out and see how the coyotes respond. How animals respond to something new gives us a direct measure of their boldness level that we can compare across the country and between urban and rural sites. The coyotes seemed happy to participate in our experiment. When there's only the bait, coyotes were very curious, coming right up to smell the lure. Sometimes they dug around and even ate the bait. Some animals would overmark the site with urine or feces, a classic canid territorial behavior. Others would even rub themselves in the scent, getting the smelly stuff all over their coat. This is probably what my dog would want to do. We don't really know why they do this, but clearly these animals were comfortable and did not feel at risk. But when we added the novel object, just a few sticks and twine, their behavior changed dramatically. You can see the coyotes are suspicious. They want to come check out the scent, but they're nervous and they can't decide if they really want to take the risk. They keep their distance and inspect the novel object from afar. Some are so freaked out that we only see them zipping by in the background. But not all coyotes responded in the same way. Some decided the bait was worth the risk. They sized up the experiment, walked in, and then behaved just like we saw when no novel object was present, digging, eating the bait, and even overmarking the site. One enthusiastic participant even brought their own food into the experiment. Overall, coyotes were pretty neophobic. Across the country, most were more cautious when the novel object was present. But this is where the key pattern emerged. When we saw those bolder responses approaching the bait despite the novel object, they occurred more often in urban areas. Across the whole country, when the novel object was present, urban coyotes showed they were bolder by consistently getting closer to the bait. Once we saw this clear urban-rural difference, we asked two follow-up questions. We tested whether coyotes were bolder in larger cities and whether coyotes in more recently colonized cities behaved differently. Surprisingly, neither pattern showed up. Urban coyotes were more willing to take risks, but they weren't progressively bolder in bigger cities, and they weren't more cautious in newer ones. This tells us something important. The urban-rural difference is real, and it's remarkably consistent across very different cities and regions. Now, it's important to be clear about what this does and doesn't mean. Being bold around a novel object does not automatically mean being aggressive towards people and pets. Our study doesn't show that urban coyotes are more dangerous. What it does show is that coyotes living in cities are, on average, more willing to take risks in unfamiliar situations. That matters because risk-taking behavior influences how animals move through cities, how they use human-dominated spaces, and probably how likely they are to encounter people and pets. And because this pattern was so consistent across the country, it suggests that solutions developed in one place may also be useful in many others. A key takeaway from our study is that behavior matters. Managing coyote conflict isn't just about how many coyotes are out there. It's about how they interact with people and with human-dominated spaces, and how individual coyotes differ in their willingness to take risks. Our study found that urban coyotes behave in similar ways across cities, so strategies like protecting pets, managing food waste, and educating the public may work broadly, not just in one place. Coexistence with coyotes isn't always easy, but understanding their behavior gives us better tools to try. Big thanks to the teams of biologists that helped run camera traps for this experiment across 16 cities. And also thanks to Dr. Julie Young and Dr. Stuart Brack, who led the study, which was just published in the journal Scientific Reports.